Beggars need to get out. My MIL screamed while throwing hot water on me. Little did she know I make $50,000 monthly and was about to clear her debt. I never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest. 3 days ago, my mother-in-law threw boiling water at me and kicked me out of her house while screaming that I was a beggar who needed to get out and never show my face again. The irony? I make over $50,000 a month from my business, but she's never bothered to ask what I actually do for a living. My wife and I have been married for 6 years. We met in college, fell in love, and decided to build a life together. I started a tech consulting business 4 years ago that struggled at first but exploded in growth over the last 2 years. I've always been private about money. I grew up in a household where flaunting wealth was considered tasteless, so I don't drive flashy cars or wear expensive watches. My MIL has always been difficult. From day one, she decided I wasn't good enough for her daughter. When we first met, I was still finishing my degree and working part-time. She made comments about how her daughter deserved someone established and frequently asked when I would get a real job. Even after we got married, she'd make snide remarks about my career choices. Last week, my wife suggested we stay with her parents for a few days while some renovations were happening at our house. I was hesitant but agreed because it meant a lot to my wife. The first 2 days were tense, but manageable. My MIL would make passive-aggressive comments about my work ethic, asking if I was still doing that computer thing and wondering aloud if I was ever going to provide properly for her daughter. Then came the incident. I was working from their dining room table when my laptop started glitching. I called a client to reschedule our meeting, explaining I was having technical issues and would need to postpone. My MIL overheard this and apparently decided this was proof I was unemployed and lying to everyone. After I hung up, she stormed into the room, her face red with anger. "I knew it," she screamed. "You don't even have a real job. You've been pretending all this time." I tried to explain, but she wasn't listening. She grabbed my laptop and shoved it into my bag. "My daughter married a liar and a beggar," she yelled. When I stood up to retrieve my computer, she grabbed a cup of tea she'd been drinking, still steaming hot, and threw it at me. The hot liquid splashed across my arm and chest. The pain was immediate and intense. "Beggars need to get out and never show your face again," she screamed, pushing me toward the door while I was still reeling from the burn. My father-in-law just stood there, saying nothing. My wife wasn't home. She'd gone to check on our renovation progress. Before I could even process what was happening, I was standing outside with my bag. The door slammed behind me. I drove to the ER where they treated me for second-degree burns on my arm and chest. I called my wife from there, trying to explain what happened without making her choose sides. She was horrified and left her parents' house immediately to meet me at the hospital. The truth is, our renovation was just an excuse. We were actually planning to surprise her parents with a gift. We'd paid off their mortgage. The paperwork was in my laptop bag when my MIL threw me out. My wife and I had discussed it for months, knowing they were struggling financially since my FIL's retirement. My wife is devastated. She's torn between her loyalty to me and her relationship with her parents. She's staying with me at a hotel now, but she's been crying constantly. Her mother has been calling her nonstop, telling her version of events, that I disrespected her home and she asked me to leave after I revealed my true lazy nature. I haven't told my wife about the mortgage payoff yet. Part of me wants to reveal it to prove my MIL wrong, but another part feels that would be petty. I didn't do it for recognition or to prove anything. I'm not sure what to do now. My burns are painful, but healing. My relationship with my in-laws seems beyond repair, and my wife is caught in the middle of a situation she never asked for. Should I reveal the truth about our finances to my MIL? Should I just let it go and keep my distance? I never cared about her approval before, but now it's affecting my marriage. Update 1. 2 days later. First, thank you all for the overwhelming support. I honestly didn't expect so many responses. After reading your comments, I had a long talk with my wife. We decided that honesty was the best approach, but not out of spite or to prove anything. Yesterday, we invited my in-laws to meet us at a neutral location, a private room at a restaurant. My FIL came, but my MIL refused. My wife was heartbroken but determined to move forward. Over lunch, I calmly explained to my FIL what I actually do for a living. I showed him my company website, client testimonials, and recent projects. I explained that I've always been private about money because of how I was raised, not because I was hiding anything. His reaction surprised me. He broke down crying, apologizing repeatedly for not standing up for me. He admitted he's been walking on eggshells around my MIL for years, and that her behavior has gotten worse since his retirement made them financially dependent on their savings. Then I showed him the mortgage payoff documents. He couldn't believe it. He asked why we would do something so generous after how they'd treated me. I told him it wasn't about keeping score, it was about family. He called my MIL from the restaurant, putting her on speaker. He told her everything. Her initial reaction was disbelief, then embarrassment, then anger that we'd kept secrets from her. She demanded to know why I hadn't just told her about my business. I calmly replied, "You never asked. You assumed." There was a long silence on the other end. My FIL asked her if she realized she could have seriously injured me. She mumbled something about overreacting, but didn't actually apologize. My wife then spoke up, telling her mother that she needed to make this right or risk losing her daughter. My MIL agreed to meet with us tomorrow. I'm nervous but hopeful. My wife is still struggling. She loves her mother but is horrified by her actions. She's been incredibly supportive of me through all of this. As for the burns, they're healing but will likely leave some scarring on my forearm. A physical reminder of this whole mess. I'll update again after we meet with my MIL. Update 2. 1 week later. The meeting with my MIL didn't go as planned. She showed up defensive and ready for battle. She brought a folder of evidence that I was hiding things, screenshots of my social media where I never mentioned my business, photos of my modest car, even pictures of our house that she claimed didn't look like something a successful person would live in. When I tried to explain that I value privacy and don't believe in flaunting wealth, she accused me of playing mind games with the family. My wife finally lost her patience. She stood up and told her mother that her behavior was unacceptable and that she needed professional help. My MIL stormed out, claiming we were ganging up on her. My FIL followed her, looking defeated. My wife broke down in tears as soon as they left. That night, we made a difficult decision. We decided to take a step back from my in-laws for a while. My wife wrote them a letter explaining that she loved them, but couldn't continue to subject herself or me to this toxic behavior. She said when her mother was ready to acknowledge her actions and seek help, we would be there. We also decided not to go through with the mortgage payoff. Not out of spite, but because we realized it might create more problems than it solved. Instead, we set up a trust that would help with their expenses without giving them direct access to a large sum of money. 3 days after we sent the letter, my FIL called. He was crying. He said my MIL had read the letter and hadn't spoken a word for hours afterward. Then she locked herself in their bedroom. When she finally came out, she asked him to call us. She wanted to apologize, but didn't know how. He asked if we would consider family counseling. We agreed. Our first session was yesterday. It was tense and uncomfortable. My MIL struggled to express herself without becoming defensive. The therapist was patient but firm, especially when my MIL tried to minimize the hot water incident. At one point, the therapist asked her why she felt so threatened by me. After some resistance, my MIL admitted that she grew up in poverty and spent her whole life terrified of returning to it. She saw my lack of ambition, as she perceived it, as a threat to her daughter's security. When I showed her proof of my business success in the session, she seemed genuinely shocked, not just at the numbers, but at how completely wrong her perception had been. We're scheduled for another session next week. I'm not naive enough to think everything will be fixed overnight, but it's a start. My burns have healed enough that I don't need bandages anymore. The doctor says the scarring will fade with time, though it won't disappear completely. Kind of like this situation, I guess. Update 3. 1 month later. It's been a month of weekly family therapy sessions, and while we're making progress, it's been a difficult road. My MIL finally offered a genuine apology during our 3rd session. She acknowledged that her behavior was inexcusable and that she had allowed her fears and prejudices to cloud her judgment. She broke down when describing the moment she threw the hot water, saying she didn't recognize herself in that action. The therapist has helped us understand that my MIL suffers from anxiety and possibly some undiagnosed issues stemming from her childhood poverty. This doesn't excuse her behavior, but it helps explain the intensity of her reactions. My wife and I have maintained healthy boundaries throughout this process. We've returned to our home and limit our visits with her parents to therapy sessions and occasional supervised dinners. As for the mortgage situation, we've worked with a financial advisor to create a plan that helps them without creating dependency. We're contributing to their expenses monthly rather than paying off the mortgage in one lump sum. My FIL has been incredibly grateful, while my MIL is still learning to accept help without seeing it as charity. The most surprising development came last week when my MIL asked about my business. Not in a judgmental way, but with genuine curiosity. I showed her some of my projects, and she actually seemed impressed. She even asked if I could help her set up a simple website for her gardening club. It was a small moment, but significant. My wife is doing better too. She started her own therapy to work through the complicated feelings about her mother. She says she feels lighter now that everything is in the open. The burn scars on my arm have faded to pink marks. They'll always be there, but they don't hurt anymore. I don't know what the future holds for our relationship with my in-laws. I don't think we'll ever be best friends, but maybe we can build something respectful and healthy. My wife deserves that. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, It's that assumptions can be dangerous. Maya Mile assumed I was a failure. I assumed she was just mean-spirited. We were both wrong in our own ways. Thank you all for your support through this journey. It's meant more than you know.